you can walk away going and not take on that pressure, because even if you up the price, you've got the a-hole tax, which some people like to add to it. But from a mental point of view, and we talked about resilience earlier, if this emotional degradation will impact you so much more than getting that little bit of money.
And joining me on the line today, I've got Daniel Miller from Millectrical. Welcome to the call, Daniel.
Thank you very much, David. Great to be here.
So maybe tell us a bit about Millectrical and what you guys do.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks. So Millectrical, we, I suppose, born from the ashes of the pandemic, bit of a phoenix from the ashes, as I like to look at it. But yeah, we wanted to create something a little bit different. So I'd been in the past as a HR professional. I've left the corporate world to become an electrician. And I had a lot of pet hates about dealing with tradies. And so that's a lot of my focus is getting rid of those sorts of things. So focusing on communication, customer service and explanations. And if something is different, explain it. Show me photos and all those sorts of things. And don't treat customers like idiots is a big one. So focusing on sort of residential, electrical and commercial, small commercial. We enjoy doing general electrical, we do security, we do data, automation, smart home is really where we are passionate about. And so, yeah, we're happy to help out with all those sorts of things and grow the team.
So tell me, what makes you stand out from other electrical contractors?
So part of is what I just talked about. And I think that's a lot of times tradies, you know, they focus as just a one-time job, because a lot of time electricians, you're only going to see them, you know, when you've got a specific thing, or like maybe one time a year. This isn't, you know, an all the time sort of thing. So for me, what you want to do is you want to grab those customers and you want to hold on to them. So one of my vision and really focus points is making this a lifelong relationship. So, you know, it's doing those little extra 1%ers, you know, it's cleaning up, you know, asking, it's talking to the clients, not just sort of saying, okay, we want some lights. Okay, well, how do you use the space? Do you sit in the chair? Do you read? Do you play games in this room? You know, do you sort of entertain? Do you have guests? About that window, hang on, look out there. Do you know, light up that, you've got that fantastic tree out there. Have you thought about lighting that up? We can do smart automation, those sorts of things. So it's really looking beyond what specifically is asked and talking to the client and understanding, and you sort of get a bit of a feel for people, and you can sort of focus on bringing their home into like really improving the convenience factor and just sort of bringing up the focal points of their house and those sorts of things.
Yeah. So I suppose coming from a HR background, you're very much a people person, not a technical person.
Yeah, look, a bit of both. And that's where we like to sort of give that sort of differential factor, is I'm sort of bridging those worlds. And I've got a lot of friends that, you know, in the corporate world still have a lot of problems with various different trades. And I always like to take little notes on, okay, yep, so they've done this and this. So, and always improving. And I think from the HR background, it's you don't have just a concrete going, okay, we've got our performance here. It's always improving. You know, what can we do better? And I'll speak to my first year apprentice and sort of say, okay, have you got any ideas? What have you noticed that we can do things better as well? So, and I think that's where, you know, like I invite feedback from clients and the staff about what we can do better, and sort of really engaging the team to sort of contribute and be part of it.
Yeah, fantastic. So you mentioned before the call that you've been running this electrical contracting business for about 3 years now.
Yeah, look, started the pandemic. It's sort of, sometimes it feels like a lifetime. So I suppose I'm a little bit different as well. So I also teach. So I've been running the business, and I also teach electrical apprentices. And that's where part of my passion for teaching comes from. And I like to sort of really bring the customers along. For some people, they're not interested, so that's fine. We don't need to tell everybody, but it's using that passion for the electrical industry. And, you know, sort of, I really enjoy bringing the apprentices along. So it's really good sort of splitting that sort of time frames and just, I suppose, sort of being a part of the apprentice progression, as well as sort of having your own business as well. So, yeah.
Okay. So tell me, in those 3 years, what do you think's been the most profound lesson that you've had about running a business?
Profound lesson. I suppose just because someone else can do it doesn't mean that you can as well, or if they've done it as easily. You know, you might watch from the outside and they'll sort of say, oh, yeah, I've just got this, you know, new build client and we're just got $60,000 build, all those sorts of things. And then I suppose it's twofold. You're sort of going, just get those clients is a simple thing. And then to keep it rolling smoothly, there are a lot of headaches and little things I didn't sort of anticipate. I sort of thought that I'd be able to nail out a lot of the policies and procedures, but it's not easy. And it's a lot about trial and error as well. But yeah, so I suppose there's a lot of those sorts of recognizing sort of a bit of a humbling sort of experience where you sort of go, yeah, it's not always going to work for you. And to recognize that that's an important aspect and to keep on keeping on, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Most people don't realize that business is actually really tough. And
it really is.
they don't make it, right? And the reason they don't make it is not because it's not because they don't want to work hard. It's just because you have to be resilient, right? You have to make decisions. You have to take risks. You have to, suffer through COVID. An interesting time to start a business at the start of COVID.
Yes, absolutely. Like an example is I sort of talked about the apprentice. One of the people sort of saying, "Okay, I've just got this job for 25,000." They're like, "Whoa, how much? The staff are going to get that? Oh, about 10%." It's like, and you sort of go, I get it. It's an off the cusp response, but at the same time, you just want to like, well, hang on, mate. I don't get that 25 grand. There's materials and there's marketing and there's paying the people and all these other sorts of things. And so you sort of, it's interesting. You have that sort of, you go, oh, I didn't even realize that that's what people sort of, they just have that link of, yep, $25,000 job. Therefore you make, say 20,000. It's like, no, mate, we do not make that much money. There's a lot less than that for all the effort that you put in, all the different hats, like you sort of said, that you've got to wear. It is definitely a tough gig. And I think, as you said, resilience is very, very important.
Yeah. So tell me, you've obviously sort of been out looking for guidance on running your business. What's been the best piece of advice you've received?
I think I've enjoyed setting goals. So a lot of the time I didn't know when I was doing good or bad because, like, okay, so I did for one day, we made 2,500 and you're going, was that good or bad? And because a lot of people don't talk about the numbers, everyone, like you talk to a lot of electricians, they'll happily help you with different sorts of things, but when it talks about the numbers, and I suppose when I got a guide frame sort of saying, look, if you aim for one person, one van, about $1,200 a day, that's a good starting off point. Like you might not get that every day, but that's a good, you're doing okay. So and you start to realize you're going, oh, okay, I'm actually, some of my jobs I'm doing really well on. And then, that gives you that little bit of a buoyancy as well. So I think for me is having a goal, because I'm very goal orientated, and sort of recognizing that you are achieving those goals. And so just helping really set those goals. And there's a number of other little sort of goals along the way as well. But that was, I think, a really big one that a lot of people really don't have any idea on. You're sort of going, if you've got 10 guys, how much should I be getting? Like what's good or bad? So I think that was a key bit.
Yeah, interesting. And I suppose, look, in business, I teach people all the time, the numbers don't lie. But if you don't know what the numbers are, you can't really tell how you're going. And so you get into what's called busyness rather than business, right? Which is just running around chasing your tail. So it is interesting because especially with trades, I mean, there's lots of work out there at the moment. There's a lot of short deadlines. There's a lot of pressure because there's not enough employees looking for work. And really, when you're in business, it's all about the revenue and the profitability. Let me ask you, do you read any books or listen to podcasts, or is there some author out there that is inspiring you right now?
Yeah, look, I've been reading a few. I always listen to, when I get time to listen to podcasts as well, but it's sort of, I listen to sort of the specific technical ones as well. So like the smart home automation ones, those sorts of things. And I'm trying to remember, there's one book that I keep on reading a number of times. I think it's like the contractor's book or something along those sort of lines. But I think, there's a number of sort of books. I'll have to try and remember the name of it. But I've read, they go through different trades and a lot of different specific information. And there's so many good stories in there. And I'm kicking myself not trying to remember the name of the book. But there's so much information out there. And that's where I think people miss out. It's like, so listening to podcasts as you're driving around, that is a key aspect. Whenever if you've got an hour drive, that's an hour of reading you can do. And so, thinking about different sorts of things. So I think that's a really good point for people to look at is listening. If you're not listening to something, instead of turning on music or those sorts of things, chuck on a podcast and keep on the learning.
Yeah, fantastic. And look, I suppose with the economy the way it is right now, knowing what you know, what advice would you give to someone who's wanting to start a business right now, especially in trades?
Yeah, look, I think having a bit of a bankroll, don't think that just because you're good on the tools, that's going to translate into a business straight away. If you've got a bit of a bankroll behind you, so I'm talking, a decent amount of cash, so if you could have maybe 50,000 in cash, so after your expenses, converting a ute or whatever you need to do, having a bit of a windfall to cover you for whatever expenses you've got from a personal point of view, because if you don't have any buffer, you've got to take that job. So when that evil person comes through and says, drills you down for that price, it's like, what are you going to discount? What do you discount? Can you go cheaper? You're like, I need to eat. I don't have another job. I've got to take it. Whereas if you've got that bankroll, you've got a little bit of that buffer, you can sort of say, thanks very much, mate. I'm okay. And you can walk away going and not take on that pressure, because even if you up the price, you've got the a-hole tax, which some people like to add to it. But from a mental point of view, and we talked about resilience earlier, if this emotional degradation will impact you so much more than getting that little bit of money. And so that's where having a bit of a bankroll, you don't get that pressure. You're not constantly going and stressing. And I think that's a key thing. And I keep seeing young guys go through going, yeah, I just chucked on the ute, got a bit of an account going and off I go. Like, but where's your plan? Where's your bankroll? Where, how much are you charging? How much is your hourly rate? What's it made up of? All those sorts of things. So there's, I think having a bit of a bankroll is one aspect, but there are so many things that need to get looked at. So yes, more than can we talk about in this short interview.
Yeah, look, one thing you mentioned before we started recording was your vision in your business and how you spent a lot of time on that document. What drove you to create that document?
So in my previous life as HR, I saw how important having a vision is. So I worked for some really large organizations, sort of very, very large, 50, 60,000 employees. And the vision of getting everyone in the organization running in the same direction. So whether you've got 60,000 or 3, you want everyone running in that same direction. And if you don't have a vision, no one knows which way to go. So you're going to have multiple, and you don't know either. So if you don't know, how are you supposed to tell your staff or your clients or any of these sorts of things where you're sitting? Why when someone asks, why are you special? If you don't have a vision, you can't even really explain how you're different. You're just like, I do good work. So, you've got to really work hard on developing what makes you different and why people are going to purchase from you and how you're going to run the business. What's your direction? What's your focus? How are you going to treat your staff? All those sorts of things come from your values and your mission statement and your vision statement. And they're also integral to sort of creating that vision and moving forward, getting all the guys together and girls together in the same direction.
I like the way you take that on the end. Get them all in the same direction. I think that's one of the critical elements. A lot of people who are self-employed, they don't have time to sit down and do this.
Yeah.
So sometimes, there's an old author by the name of Stephen Covey, wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yes. One
of his key habits was begin with an end in mind.
Yep.
And I think when people go into business, sometimes they start without thinking about the end. Most times, I should say, not sometimes.
For sure.
And I think having that vision is really the cornerstone of getting success. So that's awesome. Look, Daniel, I am mindful of time. I really appreciate your time today and sharing some of the insights into the trials and tribulations of taking off at the start of COVID and building a successful business. So thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for taking the time. And it's great to have a chat.
Awesome.